Hi BCIT students, my name's Megan. I did the marketing management program with a focus in professional sales. At my time at BCIT, I was a part of two clubs, so Enactus and JDC West, and I'm now working for a tech startup in Vancouver called Clue, and I'm a sales development rep there.
Hi, my name is Renu Jaswal. I was part of the Human Resources Association, or the HRA, and I was a first-year coordinator in my first year and then was president of the club in my second year. I currently work as an HR advisor with WorkSafe BC, and I've been working there since graduating from BCIT in the summer of 2018.
Hi everyone, so a little bit about myself. I am Gabriela Gallo. I am from Brazil. I moved to Canada 7 years ago to learn English, and I decided to apply for BCIT, and I got accepted into the International Business Management program, where I did my diploma, my 2-year diploma. And my time during BCIT, I joined the International Business Management Club on my first year as a volunteer, and on my second year also as volunteer, but I took the role as a president of the club, which was really exciting and actually did great for my career. So currently I am a senior analyst at Optus Consultant.
I went to BCIT in the tourism management program starting in 2016, and I graduated in 2018. So that's 2 years now, which is crazy to think about. It's totally flown by. The club I was a part of at BCIT. So I was the president of MPI BCIT. MPI stands for Meeting Professionals International. So Meeting Professionals International brings together both suppliers and planners for these meetings and conventions. So it basically provides opportunities for networking, social events, and learning opportunities. So it's a worldwide organization, and the BCIT chapter operates under the British Columbia chapter, so many different chapters. And I think it's the only student chapter in BC. Don't quote me on that because I'm not sure, but I think that's pretty cool. My current title right now, I'm a communications coordinator in the corporate communications department for the city of Coquitlam.
I'm Nick Johnson, and during my time at BCIT, I was the president of the Indigenous Culture Club. I'm currently a cost consultant for an engineering consultancy called Charter Project Delivery, Inc.
I'm really excited to share some tips, some tricks, some things that I learned when I was part of the clubs and how it's benefited me and helped me transition into my career. So there are a few different things that intrigued me to join clubs at BCIT. The first one, which I think is going to be a really popular answer, was the networking piece. So being able to network with industry professionals. At the time, I wasn't really sure exactly what industry I wanted to go in for sales, so I was able to meet a lot of different industry professionals. Sometimes I even had the opportunity to go for coffee with them and talk to them about their day-to-day, which helped me understand what I wanted to do after school and give me clarity on that. So that was great.
So I was a returning student to BCIT. I had graduated from SFU 5 years prior, and I had got the Bachelor of Arts and major in psychology. I worked as a community mental health worker for several years before I had decided I was looking for a change, and so I was really attracted to the HR program at BCIT. And one of the things that I wish I'd done while I was in university was join a club or any sort of extracurricular activity, really. I really, looking back, hindsight, I just really thought that I had missed out in the first time I was in post-secondary education. I'd heard a lot from people who said that they made lifelong friends from having joined clubs. A lot of people were able to gain a lot of volunteer experience in the field that they wanted to work in, and a lot of people were able to get jobs from those clubs as well. So that was definitely my mindset when I went into school again, that I was going to make an effort.
When I first moved to Canada, I had very limited work experience in Brazil, and not working experience in Canada. So I really needed something that I could add to my resume as a graduating. Like if you're an international student, you may know it's really expensive for us to come here and work and study in Canada with the international fees. So I really needed to make those 2 years count, and I needed to add some extra experience. And I came across the club. So my first year, I volunteered to be part of the public relations department in the club. And on my second year, I became the president of the club.
So from what I heard about clubs going into BCIT, you know that stat that everyone says about BCIT, 90% of grads graduate with a job? That's like a big percentage. So my thinking behind that was, how am I going to set myself up to be at the top of that 90%? Because that's a lot of grads with a lot of really good education and experience. So what's going to make an employer want to hire me above someone else, which I mean is a little bit competitive. So yeah, I'm competitive, but that's fine. It definitely didn't feel like a competition, but I just wanted to like set myself up for success coming out of BCIT, because everyone's going to have the same education, but I think the applicable experience was really what was going to allow me to excel.
I originally got involved with clubs at BCIT to give back to the Indigenous community and to get Indigenous students involved.
I would say for sure the experience I had at BCIT with clubs helped me get the job that I have today. The first person that interviewed me at CLU, she actually had experience with clubs in the past, and she did JDC West as well. So she saw a lot of value in JDC West and doing clubs during your time in post-secondary university. It was a great icebreaker into the interview, and a lot of things that I spoke about when she asked me questions, behavioral or situational ones, I was able to answer well. And I talked a lot about my experience with JDC West and what I learned and what I could apply into the role at CLU. And I think overall, it had a really good, influence on the interview. I felt like it really pushed me to the next round because of that. So it was definitely
I actually met someone from WorkSafe at a school event, and this person ended up being one of the people who had interviewed me for my current role that I'm in. And it was interesting because I was like, hey, do you remember me? And she's like, yeah, I do. So in that kind of way, was able to eventually get to where I am, because I had that connection. I had that familiarity that I could bring back to her and be like, hey, do you remember me from that event? And it's not only me, it's one of my classmates, an HRA member as well. She, at our end of year networking event, met her future employer. So her employer was so impressed by her at the event that she called her the next day and was like, hey, when you graduate, I would love for you to be part of my company. So I think it kind of worked out for a lot of people being part of that club.
All my job offers came from my second year when I was the president of the club. All my job offers came from a event that I hosted because of the club. So when you're president or when you're part of the club, you have that extra opportunity to reach out to companies and invite them over to your events, so you can have one-on-one time with them and sell yourself, sell how well can you do and why you think you'd be great for their company, something that you wouldn't get by sending a resume. So it's really important, and all my job offers came from events.
I'd say yes, though my current job is not completely aligned with tourism specifically or what I did with MPI. I think just those 3 skills that I went over, the leadership, time management, and professionalism, entering, regardless of what industry it is, entering as a recent graduate, it's quite intimidating, because the people that you are applying for a job with or interviewing you have often been in the industry for a lot longer. They're more professional, they know what they're doing, and here we are just coming out with no experience. So I think just gaining that confidence by having those interactions with industry people, and whatever avenue that may be through. For me, it was planning events and and getting involved through volunteer opportunities with industry professionals in the MPI British Columbia. Building relationships with those people just teach you how to approach an interview and how to behave in those more professional situations.
While my time with BCIT clubs may not have led directly to a job, it gave me the confidence to hunt for jobs that I otherwise wouldn't have.
So there are a lot of different skills that I learnt when I was in clubs, and when I got out of BCIT and I'd finished and I was applying for roles, I would highlight a lot of different skills that were applicable to the job I was applying for, which was sales. So in my resume, I would highlight a lot of the experience I had with Enactus. So I was part of sponsorship, and there were a lot of skills within that were very applicable to sales. So examples where I built lead lists, I was able to bring in X amount of dollars for sponsorship. I reached out to people coldly on LinkedIn as well, created a sponsorship package, and whatnot. So those were some skills there and experiences that I could speak about as well in the interviews. And then again, like a lot of sales roles too, sometimes they'll mention that you got to have, strong communication skills as well. So I would speak about JDC West and that one too, and say that, I co-captained a team and I had to be able to write emails out and effectively, clearly give them different messages or instructions on what to do for certain things to prep for the competition. So those were ways that I was able to highlight that. And then before the interviews, I would have stories and experiences kind of brainstormed and ready in my head, so that if they asked me behavioral questions or situation-based questions, I was ready to answer those with actual experiences from when I was in clubs. Because essentially that's the stuff that will put you over other applicants if you actually have stories where you've applied the skills.
That my career before HR was in mental health, and though a lot of your skills and abilities within HR are from mental health that I developed in mental health are transferable to HR, they're not HR, right? It's not an HR job, and unfortunately to this day people really want that, whether that's work experience or volunteer experience. They're really looking for that. So having HRA on my resume really allowed me to highlight a lot of my experience that I was gaining, not only within the program, but also being part of the club. In my interview, I was able to use real life examples and situations that I went through, including examples of how I demonstrated my leadership skills and my time management skills with the HRA.
I try to highlight the way that I strategize to run those events. So in my time, we had 7 events in a year, which is quite busy. And for the showcase event, I actually managed to influence everybody in my program to help out. So it was like over 40 people, if I'm not mistaken, and I divided them into 5 departments. So there was marketing, public relations, operations, and others. So I highlighted that I divided my class into departments and gave them tasks and deadlines and a calendar, and we had meetings to discuss about it. So things that you can actually count, that you can show that you did when hosting those events, your strategy or how you went about it. Those are really easy to talk about. Those are really easy to show how well you did. We did really well on fundraising, where we got all the money for the events by donations. So we did really well on that, and something that you can showcase because there's a number on it, which is really great. And just managing people, managing their expectations, managing the companies, inviting the companies. So yeah, those are things that you can always talk about, and it will really show off your personality.
So leaving BCIT, like in my case at least, and I think the case of a lot of other people, the only experience you have is like, this is what I studied. I'd studied marketing and tourism, and that's why you should hire me. But like other experience, like I think most people was like serving, or for me, I like taught skating lessons and led summer camps. Like there was nothing on my resume other than BCIT that I could say, this is why you should hire me for these applicable skills in your job posting. So having the clubs gives you those applicable skills because you've taken what you've learned and applied them through whatever you do with the club. So for me, that was leadership and presidency and all of that stuff, but also planning events, doing communications, social media, that sort of stuff. So that was really valuable. And how I organized my resume to highlight that was obviously put BCIT at your education section at the top, and then I put related experience, and then I have other experience. So honestly, the related experience, nothing paid, all volunteer work, and all through the clubs. Like all positions I gained through the clubs, plus my industry practicum. So that goes to show that you don't need to like work in a job to get the experience you need for this job you're applying for. You just need applicable experience, and honestly the best way to do that when you're at BCIT is to get involved in a club.
There were a couple things that I learned through my time at BCIT and some things that helped me get to where I am today that I learned actually from networking and meeting with a lot of different industry professionals. So one lesson I learned pretty early on, and I'm glad I did, is that grades don't matter as much. So, and for me, I was a huge, I'm a high achiever and I love to get good grades, and that was a big deal. But I was able to get over that, and I think that's what helped me get into clubs. I was scared that if I joined a club, my grades were going to drop. Don't worry so much about that. What matters is when you apply for jobs and you start to get into your career and you're doing these interviews, they're not going to ask you about your grades. They're going to ask you about experiences that you've had, and if you're able to speak about how you actually applied some skills that are, that will transition into the role you're applying for, that's going to put you over other applicants.
I always say no one's going to ask you in your interview what percentage you got on that one business math exam, right? They're not going to be like, oh, you got a 52, or oh, you got an 82. Like, no one cares in the end, right? That's not to say that it's not important what you learn in classroom. Obviously it is. To this day, that's a measurement of our education. But employers look for soft skills. That's a huge thing. And soft skills you can't easily learn that in a classroom. It's from the interactions and the situations that you're in. So I think that's one of the big things that I always say, like, get out there, get some experience, really bring your best to the table, and you'll get very far.
So on my first year, I applied for 25 internships. Sat on my computer, did my resume with the career service at BCIT, did not get any of them. I was a little bit upset, so I went to the cargo logistics event representing BCIT, introduced myself to a few companies and said I want an internship, and I got one. So it all took me was to go to this event and put myself out there. The same with my job that I have today. On my first year, I kept contacting the company saying, I really enjoy your company. Please tell me more about it. I like your culture. Please explain it. And asking questions and just engaging with those companies when you're a student. And by the time that you graduate, they will know your name. They will know your face. And it's easier to get that job. And you have something, what is the difference between you and the next guy? It's that a lot of people go to BCIT, a lot of people graduate and get their diplomas. So how are you gonna differentiate yourself from that, from your competition? And a healthy competition, we're all, end of the day, we're all gonna get jobs. But if you want something specific, go get it.
I know Carly got me to do this to showcase the clubs, but seriously, like, my answer isn't because of that. Like, it is 100% because of the clubs. That's how I got to where I am. And like, it wasn't the classes themselves, and like, if you're showing faculty, just cut this part out, but like, the stuff you learn in the classes, that's your foundation, like, super important, obviously, and I learned so much. But being able to also apply what you're learning and practice it through involvement with clubs, it just takes it to a whole nother level. And that's something that was so valuable, and that's what employers are looking for when they look to a new graduate to hire.
What got me to where I am today is balance. Finding a balance between your academics, your community involvement, and just having fun or relaxing or doing something that's just for you, that's what led to my success. And I think that's what will lead to your success. So BCIT can be really stressful. Being involved in clubs is one more thing to add to it, but it shouldn't be a stressor. It should be something that you want to do and something that helps you be a better person and feel like your time at BCIT was more than just getting a credential.
So I hope this advice helped. If some of you that are watching this are, thinking or graduating soon, understand this is a bit of a tough time and the job market's not great. Don't get discouraged. Keep getting out there and keep putting yourself out there. Something will appear. But if you're still got, a couple more years, another year ahead of you, the light of the tunnel will come. It'll come faster than you know. So just work hard, get through it. It'll be worth it. And once you find your job, you'll be so happy that you did it. But feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm happy to always chat over coffee and share, anything that I've learned, or if you're interested in getting into tech sales or just sales in general, I'm always happy to chat further about that with you as well. So I hope you all made it through exams and you have a wonderful summer.
Yeah, I hope the best for everybody in their future endeavors. Join a club, it's great. So coming from someone who was part of it, I can attest to it. So
feel free to ask me any questions or reach out if you want to chat. I am more than happy to talk about this, and I wish you best of luck, and thank you. Bye.
That's all I have. I hope I answered all of the questions well. If anyone has any questions, like if you're watching this, totally feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm still wearing my MPI shirt in my profile photo, so you'll know it's me. But yeah, I'm more than happy to chat and answer questions or give advice or anything like that. Okay, bye.